Hi students, welcome to Sunil's tutorial. I'm Sunil Mirwani and today we'll be doing this chapter called as electrostatics. Let's understand the concept of a condenser. Now in the last lecture we had seen that as more and more charge is given to a condenser, its potential goes on increasing. So as a conductor is given more and more charge, its potential goes on increasing. Its potential goes on increasing. Now practically speaking, if I go on giving infinite charge, there would be infinite potential, but it is dangerous to handle large charges at high potential. It is dangerous to handle such large charges at high potentials. Right? Also, any conductor has a certain maximum ability to store charge. Also, any conductor has a maximum ability to store charge. Right? If any more charge, then the ability is added. If any more charge, then the ability is added. The electrostatic shielding of the medium breaks down. The electrostatic shielding of the medium breaks down. You have a conductor. As I go on giving charge to the conductor, there is some electrostatic force that is going to be produced. Now you would have only certain number of lines that would be given out, because the area around it is an insulator. If I give very large charge, what will happen? This area around it, the insulating material that is there around it, that electrostatic shield will break down and this area around it will start behaving like a conductor. Right? Do we get this thing here? So, if more and more charge is added, then the electrostatic shielding of the medium will break down and the medium itself will then become a conductor. The medium itself will become a conductor. Right? The medium itself will become a conductor and conductor of electricity, and the charge will be lost to the surrounding, and the charge will be lost to the surrounding. Right? Now, another difficulty is the inconvenient large size of the conductor for a very small value of capacitance. If I want to have capacitance, I would require a very large conductor for a small value of capacitance. So I can say also a very large conductor would be required for a very small value of capacitance. Fine, do we get this in here? That means if a charge plus Q is given to a spherical conductor, the electric potential at a point outside the conductor close to the surface. We have derived this. If charge plus Q is given to the conductor, if charge plus Q is given to the conductor, the electric potential to a spherical conductor, the electric potential at a point outside the conductor, at a point outside the conductor and very close to the surface, point outside the conductor and very close to the surface, V will be equal to Q upon 4 pi epsilon r, right, where epsilon is the absolute permittivity of the medium. Therefore, I can say that capacity of the conductor, or capacitance of conductor, we had said, is nothing but charge per unit potential, right? We already know that V is this. Therefore, I can say that capacitance is Q upon Q 4 pi epsilon r, Q upon 4 pi epsilon r. Denominator becomes numerator, so Q and Q gets cancelled, so this becomes 4 pi epsilon r. Therefore, I can say that the capacity of the conductor is going to be equal to 4 pi epsilon r. Right? Now, let's assume that I want a capacitance of 1 farad. If C of C is equal to 1 farad, or let's assume C is equal to 1 microfarad in air, then in that case, what would be the radius of the conductor required? 1 microfarad. 1 into 10 raised to minus 6 is 4 pi epsilon r, right? Since it is in air, I can say that r is equal to 1 into 1 10 raised to minus 6 upon 4 pi epsilon, right? Now, since it is in air, epsilon will be equal to epsilon 0. Now, 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 is nothing but 9 into 10 raised to 9. So, this is going to be 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 into 10 raised to minus 6, that is 9 into 10 raised to 9 into 10 raised to minus 6, that is 9 into 10 raised to 3, that means 9,000 meters. That means even to have a capacitance of just 1 microfarad, I would require a conductor of 9,000 meters. For a small value of capacitance of 1 microfarad, I would require a conductor of 9,000 meters. Thus, the radius of the spherical conductor would be very large, and this is quite impractical. Hence, you need to have a different method to get capacitance, right? So, it is therefore necessary to have
upon 4 pi
1 upon the value of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0, where epsilon 0 is the permittivity of air, is nothing but 9 into 10 raised to 9 SI, right? Now, I can say therefore it is necessary to have an arrangement that will enable more charge to be stored at lower value of potential. Exactly. Now, that means to have even a small capacitance, this is the value of my capacitance. If I apply this formula, that means I will require such a large radius. That means I have to come up with an, first of all, I am telling you what is the problem in developing a capacitance on a conductor. To develop a capacitance of 1 microfarad on the conductor, I would require a conductor of 9,000 meters, right? Now, that means I need to have a method wherein I can have lower value of potential that could give me all the charge, right? Therefore, I can say that it is necessary. It was necessary to have an arrangement. it is necessary to have an arrangement which will enable more and more charge to be stored at the lower value, to be stored at the lower value, to be stored at the lower value of a potential. I need to have a method wherein I can have more charge stored at a lower value of potential. Such an arrangement of conductors that allows charges to be stored at low value of potential is called as capacitor. So what is a capacitor? It is an arrangement of conductors that allows charges to be stored at lower value of potential, right? So I can say such an arrangement of conductors which allows charges to be stored at lower value of potential, is called capacitor. Capacitor is also called as a condenser. So what is a capacitor or condenser? It is an arrangement of conductors that allows low charges to be stored at lower value of potential. How do I do this? In order to do this, I need to increase the capacity of conductor, because to have a 1 microfarad charge, in order to have 1 microfarad capacitance, I require 9,000 meters worth conductor. So I need to have a method wherein I can increase the capacity of the conductor. Right? Now the capacity of the conductor increases if another conductor is connected to the earth and it is kept near it. To increase the capacity of the conductor, one of the methods is used is the capacity of a charge. The capacity of a charged conductor increases. The capacity of a charged conductor increases if another conductor connected to the earth is kept near it. Right? Now this principle is called as the working of the condenser. What is working of the condenser? Where you have two conductors placed near each other and one of the conductor is connected to the earth. Fine, do you get this? So this, I can say that this is the principal working of a condenser. This is the principal working of a condenser. Right? That means in the simplest form, what is a capacitor? A capacitor consists of two conductors of any shape separated by each other by air or dielectric medium. Right? So I can say therefore a condenser or a capacitor. A capacitor consists of two conductors. A capacitor consists of two conductors of any shape separated from each other by air or dielectric medium. By air or dielectric medium. Right? The charge is given to one of the conductor and the other conductor is kept earth. Charge is given to one conductor and the other conductor is kept earth. Fine. Now let's see how does this actually work and why is it that you are able to store high charges at low potential. Let's consider two plates. I have plate A and plate B. Plate A and plate B. Let us assume that positive charge is given to plate A. If positive charge is given to plate A, it will induce a negative charge on the near end of plate B. Because we know opposite charges attract, so there will be an induced charge where you get a charge without any physical contact. So there will be an induced negative charge on the near end of plate B. Since all the negative charge is going to move towards the near end or the front end, therefore there will be an opposite charge induced at the far end of plate B or on the other end of plate B. Right? If I give positive charge to plate A, it will induce a negative charge to the near end of plate B and it will induce the opposite charge, that's positive charge on the far end of plate B. Now, if the opposite end of plate B, if I earth it, then what will happen? Then this is how it will look like. This is plate A, this is plate B. You have positive charge. This is negative charge. And I am earthing this. Since I am earthing this, the positive charge which is there on the opposite side of plate B is going to get earthed. So now the capacitor is going to have opposite charges. Fine, do you understand this? So I can say that if a parallel plate condenser consisting of two metal plates A and B is taken. So if I have such a parallel plate condenser, let's assume that charge plus Q is given to plate A. Charge plus Q is given to plate A. Right? So in that case, an equal amount of negative charge is induced on the near side of plate B and equal amount of negative charge minus Q is induced on the near side of plate B right? Now, in that case, I can also say that an equal amount of positive charge will be induced on the other side of plate B and equal amount of positive charge is induced, an equal amount of positive charge plus is induced on the other side of plate B, induced on the other side of plate B. Right? Now, the induced negative charge is bounded to the given charge by the induced positive charge. See, why will you have this negative charge on the near side? Because of the positive charge, right? And it will have a tendency to move away. That means this charge will have a tendency to move towards the plate A. Now, I can say, and whereas the positive charge which is there on the other side of plate B will have a tendency to move away from plate A. The negative charge will have a tendency to move towards plate A. The positive charge will have a tendency to move away from plate A. I can say that the induced negative charge is bound to the given charge, bound to the given charge, right, and the induced positive charge, induced positive charge, the induced positive charge has a tendency to move away from the given charge, has a tendency to move away from, has a tendency to move away from the given charge, right? Now, if plate B is earth, if plate B is earth, right? If I connect plate B to the earth, then the free positive charge escapes to the earth, then free positive charge escapes to the earth, right? Free positive charge will escape to the earth, and only the negative charge will remain on plate B. Only minus Q will remain on plate B, right? Now this negative charge which is on plate B decreases the potential of plate A, because it is an opposite charge, therefore it will decrease the potential. This negative charge on plate B decreases the potential on plate A. Since it's an opposite charge, it will induce an opposite potential. Since it will induce an opposite potential, therefore it will reduce the potential on plate A, whereby the capacity of the arrangement to hold the charge increases. Whereby the capacity of the arrangement to hold charge increases. Fine, do we get this thing here? So do you understand why a parallel plate would increase the capacity of the condenser? Right? Let's also explain this to you mathematically. So this is the theoretical aspect, as why by placing two plates close to each other the capacity of the condenser increases. Because by placing two plates close to each other, you have an induced negative charge. The induced negative charge induces an opposite potential, which reduces the potential on plate A. Since it cancels out the potential, the net potential of the arrangement decreases and the charge still remains the same. Hence, you can hold higher charges at lower potential. Mathematically, let us consider this. Let us suppose that in the absence of plate B, let us suppose that in absence of plate B, in the absence of plate B, the potential on plate A is V. The potential on plate A, let us assume, is V, right? Due to the charge plus Q. There is a charge plus Q that induces the potential of V on plate A, right? Hence, I can say that the capacity of the condenser, capacity of the conductor, capacity of plate A, C, will be nothing but Q upon V, right? Now, if plate B, which is earth, is kept near plate A, if plate B, which is earth, is kept near plate A, then the induced charge minus Q on the left side of plate B will produce a negative potential. The induced charge minus q on the induced charge minus q on the left side of plate B will produce a negative potential. Since there is a negative charge, it will produce a negative potential minus say V1. Let us assume that plate B produces a negative potential minus V1. Hence, what will be now the resultant potential on plate A? Therefore, the resultant potential on plate A now will be V minus V1, that will be the net potential on plate A. Therefore, capacity will be Q upon V minus V1. Right? Now, since we will call this capacity as C1. Now, I can say that C1 will be greater than C because I am dividing by a larger number. So, obviously C1 is going to be greater than C. Therefore, I can say that the arrangement of conductors called as capacitor has greater charge to hold charge. Therefore, by keeping multiple parallel plates, the ability of the conductor to hold charge will increase. Therefore, the arrangement of conductors called capacitor has greater capacity to hold charge. Fine, do we understand this? So do we understand what is a parallel plate capacitor and how does it have more ability to hold charge? Now, let us derive an expression for capacity of a parallel plate condenser. Expression for capacity of parallel plate condenser. Right? You are going to consider two parallel plates P and Q. Right? You are going to give positive charge to plate P. Right? Let's assume that the distance between the two plates is D. Right? It is going to induce a negative charge on the close end of plate Q. The other end of plate Q, I am going to earth it. I am going to ground this. Right? So let's write this down. So you will say that consider parallel plate condensers. We call this as P and say P bar because Q I need for the charge. This is my charge plus Q induced here. This is my charge minus Q that is induced here. So you will say that consider.
So,
Yes.
that's P dash.
P bar. Right? Now consider a parallel plate. Consider a parallel plate capacitor. Consider a parallel plate capacitor consisting of two plates P and P bar, right? Each of area A separated by a distance of D. Let us assume that epsilon is the permittivity of the medium. Epsilon is permittivity of medium. Let's assume that epsilon is the permittivity of the medium between plates P and P bar. Between P and P bar, right? The plate P is given a charge of plus Q. Plate P is given a charge of plus Q and P bar is earth. So you made your normal parallel plate capacitor. So you would have charge plus Q on plate P, charge plus Q on plate P induces a charge minus Q on the inner side of P bar, right? So the unbound positive charge on the outer side of P bar is going to get earth. Now the electric intensity between plate P and P bar is practically uniform because you have uniform charge. Therefore there will be uniform electric intensity between plate P and P bar. Let us assume that electric intensity is E, right? I can say that the electric intensity between plate P and P bar is uniform, right, and perpendicular to the plate. So as a result of this, I can apply Gauss's theorem here. So I can say by Gauss's theorem, if I apply Gauss's theorem, I can say that the electric intensity is going to be nothing but sigma upon epsilon. We have already derived this, that for a conductor, the electric intensity is sigma upon epsilon, or it is also equal to sigma upon epsilon 0k, right? Where epsilon, I have already said, is the permittivity of the medium, and epsilon 0, let us assume epsilon 0 is permittivity of vacuum. Right, and K is dielectric constant. So as a result, I can also say, but what is Q? What is charge density? Charge density is nothing but charge per unit area. Hence, I can therefore say that E is equal to Q upon A epsilon 0k, right? Now, since the electric intensity is uniform, the electric intensity between the plates is uniform, therefore the potential difference V is given by the formula E into D, right? E we have already found out is Q upon A epsilon 0k into D. Potential difference is electric intensity into the distance between the two plates. I know V, I know Q, so I can now find out the capacity of the condenser. I can say by definition, capacity of condenser is going to be nothing but C, which will be Q upon V. Q upon V. V we found out is QD upon A epsilon 0k. Therefore, I can say that capacity of the conductor, Q and Q gets cancelled, denominator of denominator becomes numerator, A epsilon 0k upon D, right? So that is going to be my capacitor of a parallel plate condenser, right? Now, if the medium between the plates is air, between plates is air, then K will be equal to 1. K will be equal to 1, in which case I can say C is equal to A epsilon 0 upon D. Right? So that is my expression for capacity of a parallel plate condenser. Next, let's find out the energy that is going to be stored in a parallel plate condenser. Energy in a charged condenser. Now, during the charging of the condenser acquires some charge in the beginning, and this charge begins to repel the additional charge given to the condenser. As I have, guys, can you see this diagram? If I give some charge to this condenser, it will acquire some charge. After that, as the charge starts coming in, the two charges are going to be like charges. So the new charge that will be coming in, it is going to repel that charge. So I can say that during the charging of condenser, as the condenser acquires some charge, in the beginning, this charge begins to repel. This charge begins to repel additional charge given to the condenser. Right? In this process, some work has to be performed against the force of repulsion. Since the new charge is going to be repelled, if I have to give that charge to the plate, that means some work has to be done against the force of repulsion. So I can say that in this process, some work must be performed against the force of repulsion. Right? Now this work done is stored in the condenser in the form of potential energy. If some work is done, it has to be stored in the form of energy. This work done is stored in the condenser in the form of potential energy. Right? Now let's find out how much is going to be this potential energy in the condenser. Do you understand why we will have potential energy in the condenser? Now consider a condenser of capacitance. Consider a condenser of capacitance C. If Q and V are the charge and potential, if Q and V are the charge and the potential, then on the condenser, then I can say that when it is fully charged, C is equal to Q upon V. Right? Now during the charging, as the value goes on increasing from 0 to Q, during charging, as the value of charge goes on increasing from 0 to Q. Correspondingly, the potential energy also increases from 0 to a final value V. Correspondingly, the potential energy also increases from 0 to V. Right? Now let us assume, let small q be the charge and small v be the potential energy at some stage of charging. Right? Capacitance is Q upon V. Right? Therefore, I can say that V is equal to Q upon C. Right? Now, when some additional further charge, when a further small additional charge dq is given to the condenser, what would happen is work would be done. Work is nothing but potential into charge. Therefore, I can say that the work that would be done would be small amount of work done by a small potential and small further charge. Now let's assume if W is the total work done, in charging the condenser, to a charge Q, then I can say W is going to be integral of dW, right? So in that case, the condenser is going to be charged from 0 to Q. dW we said is nothing but V dQ, right? V we had written as nothing but Q upon C. So this is integral of 0 to Q, Q upon C dQ, right? Now whatever is constant comes outside the integral, so this is nothing but 1 upon C integral of 0 to Q, Q dQ. Integral of Q is nothing but Q square by 2, so this can be written as 1 upon C Q square by 2 when the limits are between 0 to Q. How do I solve definite integral? Upper limit minus lower limit. So I am going to do upper limit, so this will be 1 upon C 1 upon 2C, upper limit minus lower limit. So this will be Q square upon 2C. So that is going to be my work done. Work done is going to be nothing but Q square upon 2C. Now let's try to write this equation in different forms, right? I can say that W is equal to 1 upon 2 Q. Q can be written as, right, we have said that Q can be written as VC. Q can be written as VC. So this can be written as VC the whole square upon C. So half V square C upon C square upon C. So this is half V square C. Right? I can also say that C, this is another equation for work done. Work is half V square C. C can be written as Q upon V. Square and this gets cancelled, so W will also be equal to half QV. So these are the multiple forms in which you can find out the work done. So I can therefore say that work done by a parallel plate capacitor would be equal to 1 upon 2 q square upon c, or it will be equal to 1 upon 2 cv square, or it will be equal to 1 upon 2 qv. These are the three expressions for work done. Now let's find out the work done by condensers in series, right? Let's try to find out the work done by condensers in series. Let's consider three condensers connected in series. We are doing 3, 4. This is condensers in series. Let us assume that I have three condensers connected in series, right, across a potential of V. The three condensers are C1, C2 and C3, right? Now let's assume that V is the potential, plus minus. Now as you apply some potential, there is going to be some charge that will be on the condenser. Now since this is a series circuit, current is constant. Since current is constant, that means you will have same charge. So you will have a charge of plus Q on the near end, minus Q on the far end, plus Q, minus Q, plus Q and minus Q. So you will have charges of plus Q and minus Q on the two ends. Now because of charge, each condenser is going to have some potential on it. Let's assume V1 is the potential of the first condenser, V2 is the potential of the second condenser, and V3 is the potential of the third condenser, right? Now you will say that consider arrangement of condensers in which the negative plate of one condenser is connected to the positive plate of another conductor. Is connected to positive plate of another condenser. Right? And so on. So that's my series arrangement. A cell is connected between the positive plate of the first condenser and the negative plate of the last condenser. A cell is connected between positive plate of one condenser and negative plate of another condenser and negative plate of last condenser. Fine. Now let us assume that C1, C2, C3 are the capacitance of the three condensers. C1, C2 and C3 are the capacitance of three condensers. Right? Let us assume that C be the equivalent capacitance of the arrangement. The equivalent capacitance of the arrangement. Right? In which case I can say that if charge plus Q is given on the first plate of the condenser, charge minus Q is induced on the other plate of the condenser. So charge plus Q is induced, charge plus Q is given is given to the first plate of first condenser minus Q is induced on the other plate of this condenser, other plate of this condenser, and plus Q is then induced on the first plate of the second condenser. Plus Q is induced on first plate of second condenser, and so on. Right? Now let's assume that the magnitude of the charge on each plate of the condenser is same, which is Q. Let magnitude of charge on each plate be same and be equal to Q. In that case, I will say that let V1, V2 and V3 be the potential difference across the condensers C1, C2 and C3. So in which case I can say that, and let V be the total potential difference across the series arrangement. Let V be total potential difference across the series arrangement. So in which case I could say that C1 is Q upon V1 because the charges are same on each condenser. I could say that C2 is Q upon V2 and C3 is Q upon V3. Right? Now I could also say that C is equal to total charge upon total potential. Now from this expression I can say therefore V1 will be Q upon C1, V2 will be Q upon C2, V3 will be Q upon C3 and V will be Q upon C. But from the figure it's very evident that V is equal to V1 plus V2 plus V3. Therefore I can say that Q upon C is Q upon C1 plus Q upon C2 plus Q upon C3. Q upon C is equal to Q common 1 upon C1 plus 1 upon C2 plus 1 upon C3. Q and Q gets cancelled. I'll get 1 upon C is 1 upon C1 plus 1 upon C2 plus 1 upon C3. So thus the equivalent capacitance of capacitors connected in series is going to be equal to 1 upon C1 plus 1 upon C2 plus 1 upon C3. So I can therefore state the law this way: the reciprocal of the capacitance in series arrangement the reciprocal of capacitance in series arrangement of condensers is equal to the sum of the reciprocals of the individual capacitance, equal to the sum of the reciprocals of individual capacitance. Right? Do we get this in here? Now, next let's try to see capacitance in parallel. Capacitors in parallel. Let's see a parallel arrangement of capacitors. our potential V that is going to be applied. Let us assume that this is capacitor C1, C2 and C3. Right? Let us assume that the charge given to this is plus Q1, plus Q2 and plus Q3. Since this is parallel circuit, the current in the three branches will be different, therefore different charges are going to be induced on the plate. So this will be minus Q1, minus Q2 and minus Q3. Right? Q is the total charge that is going into the circuit. Right? Let's write this. Consider an arrangement of condensers where one plate of each condenser is connected to the positive terminal of the cell and the other plate is connected to negative terminal of the cell. Right? Let the three condensers have capacitance C1, C2, C3. Let these condensers have capacitance C1, C2 and C3. Right? Connect. Let us assume that total charge of plus Q is supplied to the arrangement. Let total charge of plus Q be supplied to the arrangement. Right? Now, let us assume that Q1, Q2 and Q3 are the charges on the three condensers. Let Q1, Q2 and Q3 be the charges on the three condensers. So in which case I can therefore say that Q will be equal to Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3. Right? Now, I can also say that in this arrangement, let the potential difference the potential difference across each condenser is same. The potential difference across each condenser is same. The potential difference across each condenser is same and is equal to the potential difference across the parallel arrangement. Potential difference across the parallel arrangement. Right? So let's assume that let the potential difference be V. So in that case I can say that C1 is Q1 upon V, C2 is Q2 upon V and C3 is Q3 upon V. Right? Therefore from this equation I can say Q1 is VC1, Q2 is VC2, Q3 is VC3. Right? But we have already said that Q is equal to Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3. Therefore Q can be written as Vc, where C is the equivalent capacitance, is nothing but Vc1 plus Vc2 plus Vc3. So I can say that VC is V common C1 plus C2 plus C3. V and V gets cancelled. C is equal to C1 plus C2 plus C3. Right? So this is going to be my expression for capacitance in parallel. Therefore, I can state the law that for number of condensers arranged in parallel, for number of condensers arranged in parallel, the equivalent capacitance is equal to the sum of the individual capacitance. Fine, do we get this in here? So do we understand capacitance in parallel? Okay, we'll stop this here for the day. Thank you, brother.